one. I'll be doing my training rides kind of independent of the formal program in Toronto, so
Yep.
make sure that I stay on myself.
Good. And being in Seattle, you know what rain is. Although I keep promising there will be no rain, just trust me. So what we're going to do is jump right into this. I'm going to share my desktop. Wait a second. No, that's not what I want. That's what I want. Here we go. So, okay. Um, so Simon Withers and I will do a more introduction in a little bit. Um, we'll be running this. Simon and I will just jump back and forth kind of at random um, on the pages, and we'll um, we'll be going through this. Now, this is about an hour. Um, we could do it a little faster, I think, by not going into too much detail. For a lot of you, what you're going to see is painfully obvious because some of you are experienced riders and you know this. The most important part about this, um, there's several parts. One is bicycle safety on the road because we do go through a lot of city as we leave. Um, and while we're in small towns that still have quite a bit of traffic, some of those points are not that obvious. Um, the other thing is we want people to be predictable when they're riding in groups. It looks like there are well over 300 riders this year. And with that many riders on the road, and of course we always have about 200 or so, um, we do have to be aware of each other. So we're going to be talking about that kind of thing. Um, and there are other things like nutrition and so on. Before we begin, the Americans, this may seem to be maybe new to you, but this is very standard in Canada now since we've had the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Um, so I'm just going to read this off. This is a land acknowledgement of the indigenous population. We're meeting and will be cycling through the traditional territory of many nations spread through our trajectory along Lake Ontario and the St. Lawrence. Individual nations in Toronto include the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendake peoples. In Kingston, this is the traditional territory of Haudenosaunee, Mississaugas, and the Wendake, and in Montreal, it's the land of the Wendake Nation, along with the Mohawk and the Haudenosaunee. Wherever you are joining us from, we wish to acknowledge the people who have lived where you live, drink from the waters you drink from, have slept under the same skies for such a long time. These lands are now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. So we're going to talk about training seminars that are coming out, outdoor training, some mandatory equipment, and some mandatory milestones you need to make, and most importantly, safety on the road. In the whole pantheon of people who run the bike rally, Seamus and Ariel are co-chairs. They're at the top of the food chain. They're the people you appeal to if you can't appeal to anybody else, and they're the ones who are tirelessly working to make the whole thing work. Um, Part of the steering committee is training and support. That's myself and Simon. Um, so we're both experienced cyclists. Oh, I forgot to tell you. Yeah, I'm calling from Toronto. Uh, this is my 22nd year doing this, and I'm not really afraid of anything, but I'm very much looking forward to traveling with people. Oops, that was not intended. Um, Hang on. Okay, I'm going to right into training seminars. Um, this safety Zoom is our first training seminar. Uh, as I said, we're trying to get people kind of on the same page in terms of safety and communication on the road. Um, we do basic bike safety checks and changing a flat tire. Now that was done at the Bike Rally Expo, but we have a flat tire clinic in Toronto. It'll be in Queens Park. The date is on the calendar. Everything's on the calendar. um, you should be able to change a tire, even though there will be lots of help and people around you. Sometimes, especially those who are on the training rides, may find yourself a little bit alone with a flat tire, and there are sweeps, so you will be swept. But this is a skill you should know. By the way, that picture, that is me in 1978 in France on a ride between Paris and Bordeaux. We didn't take the kid with us. Hill climbing techniques is another one. We do that in the Don Valley. There are 2 times for that also in the calendar. And the newer rider training ride at Christie Station. Now, a couple of you may have signed up for that last week, and we had to abandon it. As it turned out, the weather forecast was wrong. We actually could have done it. We're going to try to do it again this Saturday or this Sunday. We'll see how the weather is. Um, Simon, take
Yeah, so outdoor training started a couple of weeks ago for the Toronto riders, for Montreal, Ottawa, Kingston riders. I think there are some groups being set up to try to facilitate at least, if not formal training rides, at least less formal ones where folks get together. And I know some of the folks in the States who have, riders on the rally with them are being organized, I think, by Charles into making sure that you're in contact with one another to organize any group rides that you need to do. The Toronto rides, as I said, they started up a couple of weeks ago. We had our first ride. It was a little under 40 kilometers, if I remember right. Out and back from Kipling subway station. I think Saturday is our next one, and that will be a similar distance out and back from Warden subway station, so the other end of the TTC line. We try to make sure that the rides are TTC accessible, that they start at a time that allows you to take the subway to get there. So that means they don't start too early and they start a little bit later on Sundays. As the rides get longer, we push the start times earlier as far as we can, so that people don't find themselves getting home from a long training ride at dinner time or anything like that. We do want you to at least have some of your day left at the end of a long ride. The rides always start with some announcements and a little bit of a warm up and a review of anything that you might need to know about the route. The scouts might have discovered that there's some construction just to be aware of, or the like on the route, and so you'll want to be there a quarter of an hour early to get those kind of announcements to make sure that you're signed in. We want to know who's on the ride, just in case something something happens or somebody gets lost and we need to find them. And so if you're there a little bit early, that means that the ride can start promptly. As Stephen said a few minutes ago, the rides do have sweeps. The sweeps are experienced bike rally participants who've done the training rides before and so kind of know what's going on. They will ride with or behind, kind of depending on the preference, the last rider. And depending, sometimes that last rider kind of wants to be left alone to power through a long day, and sometimes the last rider wants some companionship and wants someone to chat with, and the sweeps will accommodate either way. But they will kind of bring up the back of the ride, and with the goal of making sure that as long as you stay on the route, you will be able to get to the finish line appropriately.
Yeah, and just a note about signing in. The other reason for signing in is for the team captains to be able to track how far people are actually training, because it is important that you be training enough to actually do the distance. And if you don't use the training rides, you can always call in and say, I've done this ride, or I've done 80 kilometers today, and so on, just so that we don't get too nervous that you haven't had enough training. Um, the outdoor training routes, you can just glance over this. We won't go over them, but in purple are the names of the actual places that we're going, or the end. And you can see that they get longer and longer. Oh, you can't. Guess I'll have to put that in next time. Courtney Park, for instance, is about 40 kilometers. Meadowvale gets around 50 some odd. Oakville is about is about 60 kilometers and so on. So it gets further and further. Kleinberg is about 80 some odd kilometers. And then we get up to Goodwood. We're heading about 105. We're matching the normal days on the bike rally. We get up to Glen Williams and Keswick. We're doing 120K, which is the longest ride on the rally. So they're trying to simulate those. But you notice also there are some shorter rides that are mixed in towards the end, and that's for people who sign up late to give them a chance to start to catch up, or people who, for some reason, we are very forgiving, who for some reason haven't been able to do the training rides or just haven't done them and suddenly realize that they've got to catch up. So we have some shorter rides, so you will not be discouraged. Go ahead, Simon.
Yeah, so all of the training rides, they're posted up on the Bike Rally calendar, and that's kind of the place to go and look for them and track them. I'm sure team captains will be kind of sending out updates to remind people of the training rides, what training rides are happening. But the Bike Rally calendar is where to go to find them. The ride schedules sometimes do have to get changed. The ride schedules or the ride routes. There are times when we go to scout the route the week before we're going to ride it, and we discover that some unexpected road closure has occurred, and we need to divert. And then behind the scenes, we will go in and we will update in Ride with GPS to produce a new route map for the ride. From the calendar page, there are two things that you'll want to pay attention to there. One of them, I think it's generally speaking in the top blurb, is a link to a PDF that you can download that is turn-by-turn directions. And the other option, I think it's usually a little further down the page, is a link and a display into Ride with GPS that looks kind of like what's on the screen here with the Kipling to Courtney Park route map there. And if you click through that, you'll end up on the Ride with GPS website, and you can do things like download from their website, you can do things like download the route to your bike computer, to your Garmin, to your watch, to your phone, to put into some other routing app like Komoot or the like. And so those routes are available for your use to make sure that you're able to follow the training routes. We really, really recommend that you have at least one, if not both, of the PDF or a printout of the route with you when you go, and the route on a device that will give you the turn-by-turn directions based on the route map, because we really don't want people getting lost. That's a difficult one for us to be able to help with if you have made a wrong turn and now the sweeps are no longer behind you. So having the route map is definitely a big help when you're out on training rides, and the place to get them is from the calendar page of the Bike Rally website.
Yeah, we've lost very few people who never came back. Mandatory equipment, the usual stuff. Most of you are experienced cyclists. Some are new. You have to have a helmet. You have to carry spare tubes with you and tire levers. A bike pump of some kind or CO2 cartridges. So that's the hardware that you pretty well have to have with you. And of course, you can't ride without a helmet on the rally. If you're doing the training rides, for sure, water, electrolytes, a very good idea. Nutrition, a protein bar. And then we get into more of the optional, but definitely should, sunscreen and sunglasses. Sun's very strong. We do have problems sometimes with sunstroke, and in July, I was one of a good section of everybody who had to be picked up with sunstroke. First time in my life, I can't believe that it happened, but it does. Your health card, if you're American, whatever your insurance is, not that you would ever need it, but just in case. So mask and hand sanitizers, that was put in when this was first written in 2000. Because of the pandemic. Not a bad idea, but it's not likely you're going to use the mask. The hand sanitizer is a very good idea. A cell phone, cue sheet, map, or GPS route, as we discussed. back in the day when I started 22 years ago, instead of cell phone, it said bring a quarter so you could get to a phone. Can't believe that now. I haven't seen a quarter in ages. Also, everybody should check the weather. By prepare for it, we mean bring a raincoat. It really is important because you're out there for a long time, either on the rally or on the training. And hypothermia can happen in the summer. Okay, Simon?
So when we're on the rally, we are going to be riding most days upwards of 100 kilometers. And so we want to make sure that you are ready to do that. And so we have some training milestones that are really intended to give you, as the riders, kind of an idea of where you should be, what you should be capable of in order to be in be in shape to with the physical fitness and endurance necessary to do the rally. So, if we're looking kind of 3 to 4 weeks from now, May 15th, thereabouts, being able to do a 40-kilometer ride. By almost the end of June, June 26th, be able to do an 80-kilometer ride. And if you were to sit down and kind of compare these to what we've got in the training calendar, if you're doing training rides every week or every other week, you're definitely going to be hitting those couple of milestones. By the middle of July, we want you to be able to do back-to-back 100-kilometer rides because that's what day 1 and day 2 are. That's what day 4, day 5, and day 6 are of the rally. So we want you to be able to do that kind of ride, each day of a weekend, or if your job means that weekends are busy and weekdays are available, back-to-back weekdays just the same. We know that that one can be a little bit more of an awkward milestone to reach, not necessarily awkward because of the physical challenge, but because people do have lives that they're living, and you may not have kind of back-to-back days where you can devote the majority of the day to riding. So that one is certainly a little bit less of a hard milestone and more of a guideline. And if you're able to do a 100-kilometer ride on one day and then get on your bike and ride 40 or 50 kilometers the next day, or do it the other way around, that would certainly show kind of a similar level of readiness. And these are milestones that are there to give you the kind of good check-ins to target for whether you're going to have a good rally, or you're going to be really uncomfortable at the end of day 1 and wishing you hadn't done this by the time you're out at the brake stop on day 2, or if things will be pretty smooth sailing, and while it's a lot of riding and long riding, you're going to get through it and get through it comfortably, and that's what these milestones are pointing towards.
So safety on the road.
Sorry,
Yes.
can I just ask a quick question about
Sure.
I saw the image for the 1 day ride. Is there also the 3 day ride starts slightly before Kingston, is what I was gathering from the infographic. Is that correct?
There's 2 3-day rides. One of the 3-day rides is the one is from Toronto to Kingston, and there is a 3-day ride from Kingston to Montreal. I think the graphic is probably from before we had the 3-day rides, and
I see.
and the day 3 that you're seeing there is the stretch between Adolphustown and Kingston, which is the shortest day of the ride. We actually arrive in Kingston in time for lunch, and with time to do kind of do some laundry, and then we most teams do a team dinner in Kingston as well. But
And
Kingston
also, you
is
don't
a
want
bit
to
of a
ride.
short day.
Yeah, and you don't want to ride too far in a red dress. More of that later. Okay, so does that answer your question? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Cancel my membership.
There actually was a unicycle that did make the whole trip. So safety on the road. We're on the road, but we're also on bike paths, and safety applies to both, some of the same things. So
It's on pause right now.
hello. Okay. before you actually start the ride, your body has to be in reasonable shape. So on the training rides, sleep is really important. They get longer and longer and hotter. Um, Nutrition is also important, as well as having your gear ready to go. Experienced riders all know this. If you haven't, if you're green and you're just beginning this, it really is important to have adequate nutrition the night before, and also carrying enough water.
416
And
831
could you mute,
0566.
could you mute, please? Don't know who that is. So if you arrive for the ride, you're rested, you're nourished, you're prepared. That's the base of safety. But the actual safety on the road, make sure that your equipment is correct. Frame size is something that most people have a bike that fits them, but the fit sometimes is not as finely tuned as it could be. As you ride longer, some of you may find that the bike becomes increasingly uncomfortable. That may be a matter of getting it fit by a bike store. We want people to make sure the bike is well maintained and all of these things, tires, wheels, all that stuff that's listed, is in good shape. And the rules of the road, potential hazards, listening to you on all of that stuff. It's a lot to look after, but once you are riding the training rides, you'll start to get it. I see two things in the chat here.
No worries, Steve.
Okay, we're good. Go ahead, Simon.
So safety equipment, your bike needs to be in good working order, and you need to have the right safety equipment on your bike. That means you need to have a bell or a horn. You need to have a front light. You need to have a rear light or a reflector. Those are to be riding a bike legally at all, and certainly after dark in Ontario, in Quebec, where we will be finishing the ride. You also need to have reflective tape on your forks, at least as far as the law is concerned. Good practice on the rally and kind of anytime you're biking can include reflective clothing. Rear view mirror is often handy. I know Stephen is of the very strong opinion that it makes no sense at all for cyclists to not have one. While it's probably good advice, that's also probably a step beyond what many people will take. Likewise, honestly, the reflective clothing, but do make sure that you have a bell or a horn on your bike, that you have lights available for your bike, whether they're actually affixed or whether you're going to attach them as soon as the lighting is not great. Those are necessary from both a safety perspective and a legal perspective.
I will comment that my grandfather, back before 1920, he had a Model T, and it didn't have a rear view mirror, and he lived till 90. So you can get by in a vehicle without a rear view mirror, but he wasn't soft and squishy on the outside and crunchy on the inside. Just my feeling about mirrors. Helmets are mandatory. You have to have a helmet. We can't let you ride without it. We can say there are all sorts of legal reasons, but there's just common sense as well. In fitting, be careful of the fitting of the helmet. Sometimes we find people like to wear the helmet sort of skewed attractively, or maybe on the back, kind of at a rakish angle. The problem is they don't work when you do that. So this pretty straightforward. It fits level, square, and snug, so you shouldn't be able to move it too much. When you shake your head, it should not slip. And rule of thumb, 2 finger widths between eyebrows and helmet. 1 finger below the strap. Straps are flat against the face. Side straps meet just below the ear, making a V shape so they're not sort of bowing out. So that's what keeps it tight. Chin straps fastened snugly, one finger between the chin and the strap, and of course the dial at the back, um, or sizing pads to make it fit more tightly.
So signaling. Signaling is important when we're riding in groups, especially because not only are you trying to help ensure your own safety by letting other riders and other drivers know where you're going, you're also helping ensure the safety of the people who are riding with you because you are telling them what you are doing, and they know what likely the rest of the group is going to be dealing with. Left and right are fairly straightforward. If you're signaling a right-hand turn, you can either use your left arm and raise it in a bent to indicate that you're not turning left, or you can use your right arm to point in the same direction. Stopping and slowing are, roughly speaking, very similar hand signals. And that actually raises a good point, which is when we're riding in groups, it is often very helpful if we use our voices and not just wave our hands around. That can also be helpful if you are a little bit nervous about taking your hands off the handlebars. Calling out what you're doing also helps other riders know what's going on, and certainly can help a rider who might have started to daydream riding a little along behind you and a few other people suddenly snap to attention and realize they need to do something. Sand, gravel, grass, glass, obstacles like potholes, all are worth pointing out. If you take some of our training rides, especially I know because I rode along some of it recently, the one coming up on Saturday, we go through a pretty rough patch of road where you might hear a chorus of people calling out potholes, holes, 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 and there is absolutely no shame in calling it out. In fact, it's not a shame. It is a help to the people around you. And the last hand signal that we really want to make sure that people are aware of, because we cross a number of railway tracks on the rally and also on a bunch of training rides, we cross them at level crossings, is calling out that there are railway tracks. You can signal that by hand behind your back so the rider behind you can see it, with kind of two fingers parallel indicating something that looks like railway tracks, but also call it that there are tracks because if you've ever tried to cross tracks and not tried to cross them correctly, and we'll get to that in a few slides, tracks are one of the great nemesis of bicycles, and they will bring you down.
Okay, there is an Ontario Guide to Safe Cycling, which covers pretty well what we're talking about. If you have the guide in hand, it's a good idea to look through it. So we're just going to talk about riding in traffic for a bit. This is one of the most important things. A lot of people, especially newer people, are not too sure exactly where the bike is supposed to be or what it's supposed to be doing. And just think of the bike as a car. You have the same rules as cars have, and which is not intuitive for many people. It's counterintuitive, but you are riding with cars, and so you have to follow the same idea. Not all drivers agree with that, but that's just too bad. So, as with cars, slower traffic stays to the right. You have a meter. You have a right to be in that meter from the right curb to avoid roadside hazards. So you do not want to be hugging along the curb. That's where the bad stuff is. So you should be out a meter, and that's the law. So cars know that you should be out for a meter. And actually, most cars are pretty mellow about that. I would say 10, 15, 20 years ago, they weren't quite as nice about it, but people are used to bikes, at least in Toronto, they certainly are. And Montreal for sure. Riding by parked cars. Inexperienced cyclists often will pull in to hug the curb whenever there's a space between the cars, and then they'll come out. The problem with that is the cars approaching from behind will see this erratic in and out, and that makes drivers skittish. So you want drivers to feel confident that you're going to predict where you're going to be. You also want drivers to see that you're on the road, to see that you're there, rather than hiding when you come in. So hiding is not good. Um, so you want to ride in a straight line, avoid moving in and out of spaces. Also, don't go too close to the cars, because there is a law of physics that if you ride close enough to a car, the door will open. So be aware of drivers in parked cars. Watch for door opening. I tend to glance at the mirrors to see if I see anybody in the mirrors I'm coming by, and lean on that bell. No problem doing that. Okay.
So changing lanes, in this example that we're seeing here, we've got a cyclist coming up, looks like towards towards a bus and looking to go around it. Totally legal, totally expected. Cyclists, as cyclists, we have to do this kind of thing all the time. What we want to do is start by checking what's going on the road in the lane that we're about to turn into, what's coming up behind us, because that's where kind of danger will arise, is from behind. Second step is to signal that you're making a lane change. In many ways, this is, as Stephen implied a moment ago, a lot like driving. You're gonna shoulder check, you're gonna signal your turn, you're gonna check again to make sure that it's clear, and then you maneuver to go around. Now, the last point here, you can also see it in bullet 4, where the the fourth point on the diagram, where the cyclist is roughly speaking in the middle of that lane. As a cyclist, you do have the right to take the full lane if that's what's required to be safe. And if you're doing that, then you do want to really position yourself that shows that you are taking the lane. Don't spend too long doing that unless it is necessary from a safety perspective, and necessary from a safety perspective is why you would choose to do so. Because you don't want to antagonize drivers who are in multi-ton vehicles against your lightweight bicycle and whatnot. But you have the right to take the lane when it's necessary, and you do that by essentially doing a lot of the same things that you would do to change lanes. But you don't need to necessarily signal that, but you do need to check what's behind you before you move out into the lane, because once again, behind you is where danger is coming from.
The traffic turning right. This is a particular hazard. A lot of people will go zooming through a lane, and they will pass a car on the right. And sometimes that car is making a right turn, may or may not have used a signal. So when a car is turning right and you're coming up on them, you need to stay behind them and pass on the left, the way we saw in the last diagram. So you can and should go around it. A number of cyclists don't do that, but it's the same thing: shoulder check, signal lane change, shoulder check again, pass on the left when it's safe to do so. And that can be a very natural, once you get used to it, it's a very natural thing to do. And the shoulder check is hazardous for some, not hazardous. It's a problem for some people first doing it. The problem is you've got your bars, and people tend to, when they shoulder check, their arms go along with them. And what you need to learn to do is to look around without moving them. That means, and you see them in the photograph there, he's dropped his shoulder, his one shoulder, kept the other one high, and that allows him to turn his body, but keeping the okay, I screwed that up. You're actually tilting like that, and that allows you to look behind without moving the front wheel. Oh, and also that's the scam, getting an idea what's behind. The stare is, if there's a car involved, there's a car near you coming up on you, try to get the eye of the driver to reassure yourself that he knows you're there.
So designated right turn lanes. On the left-hand side of the diagram, you can see a cyclist approaching an intersection. There's a right-hand turn lane. that right-hand turn lane is there for cars to turn right, and it will um, often, if not always, as you can see in this diagram, not exist on the other side of the intersection. So the place you want to be is in the through lane and off to the right-hand side, which you can see the cyclist is doing a lane change from the right-hand lane into the middle lane, which will become the right-hand lane on the other side of the intersection. That's kind of points 1 through 4. And the fifth point, as they go through the intersection, they then maneuver themselves back onto the right-hand side of the lane where they'll find themselves in the safest place and where they'll be kind of most expected from the perspective of others on the road.
Left turns, multi-lane left turns. So an easy left turn on a 2-lane road, you do the shoulder check, signal, re-shoulder check, get into the correct part of the lane, make the left turn. Of course, you're making sure nobody's coming through the other way, and you're being very clear and communicating. You end up in the other lane, and that's very straightforward. One thing is that when you are making the turn from the original lane, you want to be moving towards the center of the road. So people will read that as you're turning left, coming from both directions, they'll read that. Doing a multi-lane left turn is a little more complicated. You do the same thing just to get into that lane, and then you do it again to get into the left turn lane, assuming there is a left turn lane. And again, the same process. And if you do it correctly, you will end up in the middle lane of the second road, and then you move back over. Now, in real life, what actually happens, we have several of these on the training rides. In real life, what happens is people see there's no traffic coming up from here. We check behind, there's nothing there. What we tend to do is make a fairly business-like move into that lane. We don't need to linger there. This is if there might be traffic behind, far enough behind, of course. The other thing is some new riders may find this very nerve-making, in which case there is no shame in doing a pedestrian turn, in which case you come up to the corner on the opposite side, wait for the light, and then come down this way. If you're traveling with a bunch of people, you probably won't do this or won't want to do this, but if you feel nervous about making that left lane, you haven't done many of those, you can do that pedestrian curve.
Roundabouts are relatively new in much of Ontario. There are some that have been around for a decade or so, and there are some that are brand new. We do go through a couple of roundabouts on the rally, and I know a few of our training ride routes do also include roundabouts. The key thing to remember about roundabouts is that traffic that is on the roundabout has the right of way. And so you want to be cautious and yield to traffic that's on the roundabout when you're entering it. But it's actually a fairly straightforward proposition to ride through them. The way that to think about it is that you are going to make a right-hand turn off of the road that you're on to enter the roundabout, and then you'll make another right-hand turn out of the roundabout to take the exit that you want to choose or that you want to take, which really brings the other point that you need to keep in mind about roundabouts, which is know where you're planning on leaving the roundabout. I know my bike computer, when it has a route, will tell me what exit that I'm to take, the second exit or the third exit or the first exit. Other mapping devices may announce that sort of thing differently. But I like when I'm approaching the roundabout to think about if there was no roundabout, am I just going straight through this intersection? Would I make a right-hand turn? Would I make a left-hand turn? And use that to plan my way through the roundabout. Something I learned about a year ago when a friend of mine shared a YouTube video made by the London, Ontario Board of Transportation is that the recommended and Ministry of Transport of Ontario approved method for bikes to ride a roundabout is to take the lane. The the key suggestion there is don't try and hug the curb. Don't put yourself in a position where cars are going past you or around you. If you take the lane, you will get through the roundabout, which isn't all that long. You're only going to be on in the roundabout for, a few seconds, maybe 30 or 40 seconds at the most if you're going the long way around. And cars are expected to slow down in roundabouts as well. And so the fact that you might be blocking a potentially faster vehicle is considered fair trade-off for the noticeable increase in safety that you will experience as a rider if you are occupying the entire lane and not having to deal with cars trying to make a right-hand turn through the space that you're already in. So if you know what direction you want to leave the roundabout, you remember that you are effectively making a right-hand turn to enter it, and you take the lane while you're in the roundabout, you'll find that they are very safe and simple and straightforward to ride, perhaps even less stressful than making a left-hand turn at a regular intersection.
I would say much less stressful. Um, Roundabouts. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, this is exactly what you're saying. The roundabout, you're just choosing your exit. Left turn simply means you're making a right, and you're still making a right. Roundabouts are always a right turn, no matter what.
I think the left turn signal on that is about moving into the middle of the lane as you
Right.
enter the roundabout. This actually does bring up one point that I missed about roundabouts, which is that almost always roundabouts have a pedestrian crossing at each of the entrances or exits to the roundabout, and so be mindful. Be mindful at roundabouts and at any other point in time, to be honest, but be mindful of pedestrians in the same way that cars are bigger than heavier and faster moving than bikes. A bike adds a little bit of extra weight. We're certainly going faster, and we don't want to be hitting a pedestrian because probably hurts us, probably hurts them, and then nobody's happy.
Speaking of pedestrian crossings, in Ontario, it's the law for cars to stop at pedestrian crossings, and bikes are cars. So when somebody is starting to cross, just stop, wait for them to cross. In I know that this isn't true everywhere in the world, but in Ontario, cars actually do stop for pedestrians. It's a pretty hefty fine, but I think it's just ingrained in us now. That's what we do. And you are supposed to wait till pedestrians completely cross the road before proceeding. I think for a bicycle, you would be forgiven for waiting for them to actually finish crossing in front of you.
Uh, I previewed this a few minutes ago, but railway and streetcar tracks are one of the many nemesis of a bicycle. The way you want to cross them is as close to perpendicular as you can. If you try to cross on a very shallow angle towards the railway track, you really do run the risk of getting a tire stuck in the track, and getting the tire stuck in the tracks it is the mechanism by which a railway track or streetcar track will bring a bike down. So the what you see in the diagram here is a very common maneuver where the cyclist, in this case, because they're trying to cross the track in the direction that they are, is going to go wide on the road in order to be able to approach the track perpendicular to the tracks and get across them safely. If the tracks were diagonal the other way, the rider might hug the right side of the road, and then as they're crossing the tracks running diagonally the opposite direction, move out fairly wide in the road and then come back to the right-hand side. Make sure that you are crossing them as close to perpendicular as you can. And for the safety of the other riders around you, call out that there are tracks and signal that there are tracks so that riders expect you to do what you're going to do, but also that they're prepared to do something similar to ensure their own safety.
And of course, you have to signal if you're going to be going into that other lane.
Yeah.
And so you should be looking back or using your mirror. All right, cycling around trucks. Trucks are a real problem. Trucks can't see you generally if you're behind them, so you need to stay well behind. If a truck is stopped at a light, it could roll back, so don't get too close to it. Um, when you enter a road and there's a truck coming towards you, uh, give them lots of space. Don't assume that they can stop quickly, because they can't. And if you are behind a truck, let's say you're waiting for a light, make sure the driver can see you in his mirror. If he can't see you, if you can't see him, he can't see you. So that, again, is just staying well back. Um, if you're in a bike lane beside the road and it's just a painted bike lane, that's where you want to stay to the right side of the bike lane. The truck, if it's going fast enough, will be carrying wind with it, but also you don't really know how close that truck may come to the lane. Um, Forget about your bell or horn with the truck driver; they will not hear you. Again, it's back to distance. Another thing is, if you're at the intersection and you're at a light, the light's going to turn green and you're going to take off. If you have not geared down and you're in a high gear, you're going to be wobbly when you begin. The worst place to be wobbly is next to a very big truck. So if you were at a light and the truck came up beside you, you didn't choose to come up beside him, but if he came up beside you, you want to hope that you've geared down first so that you can have a nice smooth start. Um, if you anticipate a large truck coming up from behind, uh, for instance, if I'm using my mirror and I can see in my mirror that this is a large truck coming up from behind, I will stop pedaling. I'll just coast and I'll just concentrate on keeping my front wheel straight. That's in the instance where it's a large truck. It's going to come past you. You're going maybe 25 kilometers an hour, and the truck may be going 60 in a 60 zone, which is about as high as we get usually. Then it's going to be uncomfortable. It'll be safe, but uncomfortable.
So passing a right turning vehicle. So here, one of the things that you really want to pay attention to is where vehicles' blind spots are. We talked a little bit about passing a right turning car, but if we're passing a right turning a right turning bus, truck, that's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
If we're trying to pass a right turning truck, it is really important to be aware of the kinds of turning radiuses that these vehicles have, and the fact that their blind spots are huge. And a third point, and one that's a little bit more subtle, is that the truck is also blocking oncoming traffic's view down the road. And so what we see here, we see the rider in the bike rally jersey with the red ribbon on the back, making a very smart maneuver of moving out to the left so that they are not going to be inside that truck as it makes a right-hand turn. They're staying behind the truck. Again, if you're behind the truck rather than in front or to the side of it, you're probably in as safe a place as you can be. And also by being wide on the road, the orange car that's also looks like the orange car is looking to make a left-hand turn. That orange car can see that there is a rider approaching, and if that rider has stopped, the orange car will be aware of that stop and will be aware of the rider for when they go to proceed into the intersection. If the rider is going through, again, the orange car can see and will be much more able to make a good, safe judgment from their perspective because they can see rather than the rider in the danger zone who is moved up inside the back wheel of the truck on the right-hand side when the truck is attempting a right-hand turn. So this kind of gets back to a couple of points that we made, which is stay back and stay cautious around trucks. Use, don't ride up the inside of a vehicle, especially one that's turning right, and be cautious when you're on the road because you really don't want to find yourself in an uncomfortable situation.
When we're leaving the city on day one, we will be going on a lot of paths and trails, leaving Toronto and then coming into Oshawa. And these trails, especially it's a Sunday, there may be a lot of people on them. There'll be baby carriages, there'll be small children. Just take it really easy. Also, people wearing headphones, they won't see you. The speed limit is typically 20 kilometers an hour. We know that people don't stick to that, but when you are where there are crowds, where there are people, there won't be crowds, but there are people. Try to keep it down for that. Yeah, that's pretty straightforward. Oh, Simon, you're good at this one.
Obstacles and other hazards. Well, as I mentioned, we do ride through some streets that don't necessarily have the best road surfaces. Hopefully, we never encounter a pothole like the one Steve managed to find a fantastic photo for. But the the best approach to dealing with potholes and other hazards is to ride around them and to alert your fellow riders to their presence. So that's calling out potholes or gravel or glass or the like on the road, pointing it out as well. If you if it's a small patch that is kind of easy to ride around while staying in the bike lane or staying in the lane that you're in, then do so. If you need to slow down, move over into another lane or the like, obviously do so, taking the normal precautions when changing a lane.
Weather hazards, it may rain. There's a possibility it could rain. So that means roads are slippery. You need to take extra precautions. Braking, older style brake systems, cantilever brakes or the regular the side brakes, they can be affected. They will tend to fade in the wet. So be careful of speed. Be careful of spacing between you and people in front of you. Apply brakes sooner than you normally would on a dry road. Metal, paint, and wood are also very hazardous. They tend to be very slick in rain. So this pretty well brings us to the end. Start your fundraising if you haven't already. That's a whole other thing. Stay connected to the e-news, to Facebook, to the material that's coming from your captains. Before you do the actual ride, make sure your bike is tuned up and get properly fit. And of course, we're all training. Also, get your camping gear together. You can get information on that from us. And if you have questions about gear, nutrition, training tips, reach us. We can throw lots of information at you. Fundraising, Rob Vano, he's at fundraising at bikerally.org, and he sets up Zooms like this, but they're about fundraising. Need help from people with aid staff, Michael at M. Reed, PWA Toronto. Last thing, this is a very important, one very important thing to watch out for. We'll be going through a lot of country, a lot of forests and wood, that kind of thing. My cousin Deborah, she lives in Brockville, and that's where we have one of our breaks. And she likes to humiliate me. And Deborah is a professional, or was a professional clown, retired. But real clowns don't actually retire. And she will come down with her poor, long-suffering husband, and they will come in some form of clown outfit and some kind of an act, and they will be in character. And it's sometimes truly frightening, but it's always embarrassing. She wasn't able to make it the last time, so she sent this on. And so this is a warning to cyclists everywhere.
I have a quick question. I wonder if you guys could help me answer.
Yes.
I know this training is mandatory or required for first year riders, and there was one last week, and this is the second one. But I think my friend misunderstood my Eastern time to Pacific time.
Okay.
How would they go about
It's being
getting
recorded.
this? Yeah.
This-
Oh,
this
it's being
is-
recorded, so you can just watch
Yeah, yeah.
this and then.
And we'll post
Okay,
it. Yeah.
perfect.
No problem.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Okay, for this
Okay,
magnificent.
sweet.
Hi, Steve. We have a really special song for you while you're doing your great big ride. Ready? Ready. Okay. Little rabbit foo foo riding through the forest, scooping up the cyclist, bumped him on the head. Watch out for mad bunnies.
Not all clowns are nice. We'll get rid of that. Okay. Questions? Not all at once.
Is that a question there,
So-
Lou?
Hold on.
Go ahead.
So for the new riders,
Mhm.
will you guys do a meeting like this to let us know what we need for camping?
I believe that that is going to be detailed in reasonably specific detail in at the big meeting, which is little ways away. That'll be both in
June.
person and online. What I would recommend if you want to kind of be proactive and get an early start on gathering camping gear or testing camping gear or wondering what camping gear you might need, would be to either reach out to your team captains who should have who should be able to probably get you a copy of last year's rider handbook, which has kind of a big list, and the team captains themselves and any experienced riders on the team will be able to help out with kind of their commentary around that list. And I think that's probably the best resource if you want to kind of get ahead of it. But we do have the big meeting coming up, and part of the big meeting is to make sure that kind of all of those types of checklist items are talked through and the logistics is discussed so that you have the confidence and the knowledge to make sure that you have what you need for the.
There will be you will get a rider's handbook, and it's an exhaustive list that it has in the handbook of what you can bring. You don't need to bring everything that's on the list, but all of that stuff is it's good if you have it all. But the basics are, if you're looking now, what you want to be looking for now is tent, sleeping bag, something to sleep on. And there's everything from foam pads, which personally I find sort of useless. There's Thermarest, which is a self-inflating but not very inflated, and they're okay. And the best is an inexpensive, just an ordinary blow-up mattress, say an inflatable mattress. Each truck has a pump. So there's nothing to blow it up. You just walk over to the truck, you take the pump, blow it up in a minute, and then you take it back. And they're a little bit heavy.
Might have to wait in line for a few other people to get through theirs, but yes.
But I've never really had to wait that long. So
Yeah.
there will be a bit of a line. And that will give you a good night's sleep. As long as it doesn't leak, but we won't talk about that. Generally, they're really good. The other thing is, you want your clothes and so on, and that's sort of an engineering thing, and you can worry about that more later down the line. But the tent, sleeping bag, a lot of people want to get that done early and start shopping for it. You're going to be given 2 large bins, Rubbermaid bins, which are pretty generous, and they'll hold quite a bit. But there is a limit, and we can sometimes get carried away. But it's pretty well cared for.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then-
A lot of people will also have a small camping chair, one of the fold-up ones that are not. Oftentimes, a few people will bring the taller ones, and that causes a little bit of a problem with the bins and the rustlers because they might not quite fit. But any of the shorter ones should definitely be able to fit in the bin.
And you have to remember that you have to carry this stuff away from Montreal. They will carry that to Montreal, but they're going to be carrying your bike back to Toronto. So you do not want to, you want to have a couple of duffel bags, not one big duffel bag. I'd say 2 duffel bags that will just fit inside the bins.
So,
But that should carry pretty well everything.
so that leads to my next question. Since there's quite a few of us on the call here that are from
U.S. Bike Logistics.
And we'll be with bike bags. I mean,
Yeah.
will you guys take the bike bag from one city to the next?
So my understanding is that one of the PWA staff who's uh, working on logistics for the bike rally will be in contact with all of the U.S. riders about where you're flying from, because I think some of the U.S. riders are flying out of Montreal and others are flying home from Toronto. And you may or may not want your bike bag in Montreal or in Toronto. And
Right.
based on where you need your bike bag, my understanding is that the plan that PWA is working on is to make sure that your bike bag ends the rally in the city that you need it in. So
Okay.
they're anticipating that some of the space on the trucks that is carrying all of our gear will also be carrying bike bags, so that those of you who need the bag in Montreal will have the bag available in Montreal. And so I would anticipate an email from the PWA staff in the next while. I'm not sure when that is coming out. I imagine that you're probably in contact with Charles from I think he's a San Diego rider. John, I think you're on mute if you're speaking to us. And he's probably a little bit more on top of what the logistics is going to be in that regard, from kind of the perspective of folks who are volunteering on the rally. But that's what I've heard from talking to folks here. I actually am hoping to have my bike bag transported from Toronto to Montreal, despite the fact I live here, because I'm flying out of Montreal and would like to take my
Okay.
bike with me. So that's I'm probably a little less critical to get that right, but certainly
Yeah.
we're aware of the fact that you are going to be showing up, coming a long way, flying in, and would like to make sure that your bike makes the return journey with you.
Right.
Oh,
Okay.
Lou's gonna carry my gear for me anyway. I have two things. There is a fundraising Zoom tomorrow at 7 out of Toronto time.
Mhm.
Yep.
And then some guy named Peter. Has anyone, four of us are from the States in this call, has any of you done the conversion rate move to make it a USA charitable donation?
There is a U.S. charitable donation that can be set up. I work for a company that has quite a few U.S. employees, so I set that up
Okay.
because I knew that it would
Yes,
it
it's
would
gonna help me.
serve it would serve our my U.S. colleagues well to be able to donate U.S. dollars through to a U.S. charity, and so that's been set up. It was certainly easy for me to set it up and kind of post
Okay.
that link out. I imagine that'll be one of the topics that is talked about on that fundraising Zoom.
Okay, cool. And I will find a way to get you if I can't figure out how to do it myself.
Yeah, you can email training, and that will get to me.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
Sorry, did you say the session is recorded?
Yes, it is.
And it will be posted on the website?
I don't know if it'll be posted on the website or if it'll be shared out to the team captains and through the team captains to the teams, but
It'll probably be the
it'll be made available one way or the other.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, no more questions?
Well, thank you all for your time, and
Thank
good luck with your training, good luck with your fundraising, and I hope to see you all out on the ride.
We'll see y'all later.
Thank
Good night.
you. Thank you very
Bye-bye.
much.
Thank you
Bye.
guys.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
guys. See ya.